with Roman criticism. Now, first pointer that you all have to remember whenever we are looking at literary criticism and theory, there are ways to make our understanding of text better and accessible. There are various lenses that we are wearing in order to understand, in order to decode a particular text. Give me one second, one second, one second. Okay, sorry, I have to change my location a little bit because of guests. Anyway, right. So, whenever we are talking about literary criticism and theory, one pointer that we have to remember is that these are ways of analyzing a particular text. These are ways through which we're able to analyze text, we're able to look at text, we're able to interpret text. These are interpretation tools. These are tools that are helping us interpret a text. Always remember that. Okay. Now, when we are talking about Roman criticism, essentially today we will be looking at two important thinkers who also come in your exam. And who are these two important thinkers? This is Horace as well as Longinus. So, Horace and Longinus are the two important Roman classical criticism members that we'll be looking at. And in Greek, we've got Socrates, Plato, Aristotle as the classical Greek thinkers. People who are pioneering classical Greek criticism altogether. Okay. So here, without further ado, let's just try. The agenda for today's class is very simple. Looking at Longinus on the Sublime and looking at Horace's Ars Poetica. Very important. What is criticism? Criticism is either justifying literature or criticism is trying to lay down the understanding of what is tragedy, what is comedy, what are these various forms of literature that you're able to see, right? So this is something that you have to keep in mind. AP Patayam, we have already stated, it's tomorrow at 11:15 a.m. So please do join in. So whenever we are looking at Roman classical writings, Longinus comes in and he talks about the sublime. I'm talking to you right now. You people are writing comments in the chat section. What is that? That is just ordinary communication. But what is this? That the books that we are reading, whenever we read a particular book, what are we able to see? We're able to see that the content which is going on the particular book is actually an example of a different style of writing. It's a form of different style of writing, and Longinus tries to classify that for us. Longinus tries to help us understand that what makes a piece of work become elevated. According to Longinus, a literary piece will always transport us. It will transport us. For instance, if you look at Longinus, there was a question that was asked in one of the PhD entrances related to Longinus in popular culture. Now, for instance, if right now your mood is really depressed, right, something that will elevate your mood will be probably a song. So, song in today's day and age, and a kind of a quirky, peppy song will actually lead you to get into a different mood altogether. And that is something that Longinus says is a quality attributed to literature. It will transport you to a different realm altogether. So, according to Longinus, the first major thing before I take you through all the slides, understand this. First point, Roman criticism or literary criticism is trying to A, justify literature, B, it is trying to help us understand the various parameters, like what is criticism, Matthew Arnold tells us, what is poetry, Matthew Arnold, Sir Philip Sidney, P.D. Shelley, they all tell us. Right? So, all those things become really important for us to remember whenever we are looking at Roman criticism. Whenever we are talking about Roman criticism, these are things that we have to keep in mind that not just Roman criticism, but criticism in general. And two people that we'll be studying, that's the agenda for today. And today your homework is going to be, if possible, try to read them in original. The original translated version for both Longinus on the Sublime and Horace's Ars Poetica. If you read the original for literary criticism and theory, you will see your fundamentals being built in a better way altogether. Alright, so that becomes really important. Right, now without further ado, we'll come to our questions. Please start putting all the questions in the Doubt Live chat platform. We'll come on to all the questions in a bit. Now, when we're looking at the first person who's coming in over here, we're going to be looking at Longinus. So Longinus is actually a person who's telling us about how a work of literature has got the potential of transporting us. Something which is sublime is something that has actually gone beyond the material reality altogether, that is sublime for us. Right, so when we are looking at Longinus' manuscript, this was actually founded in 1554. These kind of questions have started coming. When was this text founded? This text was actually founded in 1554. So this text is actually getting discussed and evaluated, but it is getting discovered in as late as 16th century. So 16th century is when we are able to see that this text is getting founded. 1554 is when there is a lot of interest in classical literature, revival of classical literature, there is Renaissance. That is when we are able to see that Longinus' Ars Poetica is actually something that is getting founded altogether, because a lot of times people get confused, people are not able to understand. So please always keep that in mind, that this is when we are able to see that the text is actually getting found. Right, so it's as late as the 16th century when we're able to see that what essentially Longinus actually wanted to tell us. Now, this particular text was still not translated. It's not that it was founded in 1554 and it was translated immediately. No, it wasn't translated. It was translated 120 years later in 1674. It was translated from Greek to French at that particular time. So we're able to see that it was found in 1554. It was getting translated in 1674. So the very recent stress on criticism. There's a very recent stress on criticism, even though criticism was always there, but we started looking at literature as a body of art to be studied at a very later stage altogether. Alright, now here please remember that whenever we are talking about these texts, the beginning of the text, like beginning of Sir Philip Sidney's Defense of Poesy, or how other writers, how's Matthew Arnold starting his work. So these questions also become really important. So what happens is we are able to see that Longinus, when he's starting, he begins in the very first section itself. He says that this is an address to certain Terentian. This is addressed to certain Terentian. It's a clear cut. My dear Terentian, my dear Terentian. So we know that he's addressing it. This is a work founded in 1554, translated in 1674, addressed to Terentian. My dear Terentian, it's an address to my dear Terentian. For instance, you get a question that Sir Philip Sidney's The Defense of Poesy is a response to Stephen Gosson's School of Abuse. And School of Abuse, ironically, was dedicated to Stephen Gosson, was dedicated to Sir Philip Sidney. So origins of a particular work, they become very important. Always remember that. So this particular work is addressed to my dear Terentian. Now please remember, we are able to see that at the very beginning, Longinus is coming to the point. Longinus is not mincing words. He's not mincing any words. He's just coming to the point. He's coming straight to the point. He comes straight to the point. So he dives into the point immediately. He comes to the point. He's like, he's not beating around the bush. He's like, okay, this is the point. Right? This is the point that you're able to look at. As I am addressing a person so accomplished in literature, I need only state without engaging further on the matter that the sublime, wherever it occurs, consists in a certain loftiness, very important word, a loftiness and excellence of language, that is by this and this only that the greatest poets and prose writers have gained eminence and won themselves a lasting place in the temple of fame. Now, what are the pointers? What are the three important pointers here? The first important point, he's trying to define sublime. How is he defining sublime? Point number 1A, loftiness. It has to be elevated. It has to be lofty idea. For instance, a lot of times, when we are fighting, when the siblings are fighting, or there is a very petty issue, what do our parents tell us? Our parents are like, this is like a very trivial concern. Just come over it, right? Come over it. It's a very trivial concern altogether. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Zubia. Such a beautiful name. Some of you are having like, such really beautiful names. What does Zubia mean? Okay, I'm so sorry. Everybody would like, also wish good evening. Good evening, so not at all responded with I'll be like, really loved the name, so that is the reason. I'm so sorry. Good evening, Rupesh. Good evening, Gaurav, Suman, Anamika, Rizwana, Ashish, Soumya, TS, Shalini, Anamika, Priyanka, Mansi, Anjali. Wow, even this is such a beautiful name. Meghmala. That's such a beautiful name. Hi, Meghmala. Sangeeta, Anjali, Pranay, Shalini. Oh, Shalini's like, okay, there's like a Korean heart for you, Shalini. She's like, I was kind of missing you. That's so sweet. That's so touching. All right. Hi, Tanuka. Tanuka, that's a beautiful name. Hi, Jigasa. Good evening. Hi, Rosalind. Beautiful name again. Das, Satria, Ikshit. Good evening. Ikshit, also nice. Anjali, Meeta. I'm good, Priyanka. Thanks so much for asking. Monu's like, yeah, I think my kind of name. Monu, Sonu, Tonu. Anyway, nice. Kshitish, good evening. No worries, Kshitish, that's perfect. Right, good evening, Priya. No, Jigasa, there was no class yesterday, but you have a class tomorrow. Okay. Alright, right, let's just come on. Good evening, everyone. Priya, Nargis, good evening. Yeah, Nargis, I'm perfectly fine. Thanks so much for asking. Alright, great. Patnayak, everyone. Alright, Raj Pratibha, I'll come to all these questions. What is the difference between criticism, theory? We come on to all of these. Zubia also answers. Zubia said it means God's gift. Wow, that's beautiful. Huh? It's a really nice name. Oh, nice. That's beautiful. Okay, right. So really good people, Ikshit, Zubia. We've got a lot of good names over here today. Right. So when we are talking about Longinuses on the sublime, the first major pointer, those pointers are clear. I hope you all written down. I hope all of you are writing and making those respective notes also in your notepads. So that you've written 1554 is when it's found. 1674 is when it's translated from Greek to French. Greek to French, mind you. Okay, it's translated 1674 from which language? From Greek to French. That is where it's translated. Then it is addressed to my dear Terentian, and he's coming straight to the point. He comes straight to the point. Now, when he's coming to the point, he tries to tell us what is sublime. What is sublime? Sublime is not something which is petty. It is lofty. It is something which is lofty. Wow. Now, nice. Now, everybody with really good, nice names. Devangana, hi. Everybody's going to be saying hi. Okay, now that I'll be distracted in the class. So let's quickly, shut the comments right now. I'll come to the comments. Don't worry. So as and when we are speaking and I'm showing you the slides, do take down these pointers because your running notes will be very helpful for you to when you'll be revising this lecture. So he says that sublime is something which is lofty and there is language. Now, this, let me tell you, will become a discussion till the end of your criticism. Romantic criticism. Samuel Taylor Coleridge and Wordsworth will have a discussion about what is the appropriate language of literature. You'll have Matthew Arnold talk about the language of literature. T.S. Eliot will also talk about experimental language. This will become a major preoccupation of poetry. This aspect about language will actually become a major preoccupation of poetry. Remember this, okay? And literary criticism. And please remember, so this is the B point. Loftiness, right? The first point that he comes on to is defining sublime. Loftiness of ideas, point number one. Second, excellence of language. And third, this is something that gives you a chance that posterity will remember you. Posterity will remember you. Posterity future will remember you. In the temple of fame. Language, you have to use the same language. In your answers also for your literary criticism, this is the vocabulary that you have to use. Alright, so please keep that in mind, everyone, that this is the first point. So I hope you've all written down those pointers so far. He's coming to the point. He comes straight to the point. He's not really interested in giving you a sort of a sermon, having that sort of a preface written, nothing of that sort. He wants to come to the point. He wants to come to the point. He wants you to be aware about the agenda. Can you see so direct that is? He's very clear. There's a clear-cut way. And this is something which is going to be different from Roman and Greek criticism. Greek classical writers like Plato and Aristotle, they will still give you context. Whereas, be it Horace or be it Longinus, they will be more clear. They will want you to come to the agenda at the very beginning. Alright, so always remember this line. The Temple of Fame line is very important. This Temple of Fame line is come. It is by this and only this that the greatest poets and prose writers have gained eminence. How? This question by the way was asked in your exam. What is this? This is loftiness. What is this? This is your language that is used. And what are these two? These two are features of sublime. I hope you're understanding. over here, right? Temple of Fame, Gaurav. Temple of Fame, right? The point that we're talking about over here is Temple of Fame. That is the point that is being discussed. So please understand that first he goes on and he talks about what is sublime, elevated idea, elevated language, and something which actually results in people getting a position in posterity. Okay, let's take one more part from the passage. Okay, one more aspect that Longinus says. The more you read the text in original for literary criticism, the better than using any summary. Skill in invention, lucid arrangement, disposition of facts, appreciated not by one passage, not by two, but gradually manifest themselves in general structure of the work. Very, very important. It is not that your trial package is really good, but it has to be consistent. It has to be absolutely consistent. So what is required? You have to show invention, the skill that is required. Arrangement has to be very simple. And this has to be sustained. This has to be there within the very fabric. It's not that 1-2 passages were really amazing. We have this thing, right? A lot of times we're like, oh, the beginning of the story was really good, but what are we able to see? We're able to see that after that the movie did not pick up. After that the movie did not pick up at all. So what is that? That for Longinus is something which is not appreciated at all, and he's having problems with it. Right? He's having issues with that. Also, please remember, this is the most important, and that's the reason I'm using a different color right now to highlight a different point over here, right? A sublime thought, it is happily timed, illumines an entire subject with the vividness of a lighting flash. It's a lighting flash. Now, this is also beauty. Now, what happens is that I'm sure if you're going in any crowded place, some people would immediately grab your attention by either their different style of dressing or because they're wearing something really different. Imagine if this is a college classroom and suddenly we have just like, I'm just picking up because this name is here, we have Janvi. So this is like a normal classroom, quote unquote, not a good word to use, but like it's a daily classroom, an offline classroom of college. All of us are sitting in the classroom. Now, suddenly Janvi comes and she's wearing a chiffon sari and she's having her chunky jewelry, she's worn gold ornaments like Bapi Lahiri. So she'll immediately grab your attention, right? In a good or bad way, that's different, but she'll grab your attention. Everybody look at her. You can either make fun of her or you can be like, wow, this is so beautiful, or so sort of guts she's having that on a normal day. She's dressed up in a way as if she's going for a marriage party. So, but that flash when she's coming in comparison to the other people who are casually dressed like you and I, that is sublime. That is sublime. The lighting flash that he talks about. That a good piece of writing. You must have seen so many times we are reading books. So what happens while we are reading books? We're constantly looking at one passage and we're like, wow, this is such a well-written page. That lighting flash is something that he discusses at greater length. Right? So please keep that in mind. So what are the pointers? Skill and invention, lucid arrangement that has to be sustained altogether. It is like a lightning flash. These words, Temple of Fame, lightning flash, they will come Terentian. You can identify the passage then. Okay, now please remember, a lot of times people say that was Longinus educated? Was he actually educated altogether or not? He is educated and he's addressing a very knowledgeable reader. He's giving you examples. Imagine the beauty of literary criticism and theory is that we will go back to texts. We will go back to texts like your textual details, textual analysis, feminist readings, post-colonial readings. So we are already imagining you. This is in reader response theory called there is already an understanding that you have a consciousness. So he's addressing this to a very knowledgeable reader. He's addressing this to a very, very knowledgeable reader altogether. Okay, Nargis for the lightning flash is giving the example of Ranveer Singh's style of dressing. Yeah, perhaps right. So yes, that style of dressing that you're able to see, you can definitely just like 1 second. Let me just sit. Otherwise, it's making sound as if like I'm farting, but it's not page. Right. So what are you able to see over here? You are in a position to see that he is addressing. So he is addressing a very knowledgeable reader who knows these references, who's knowing these references. So he's addressing a learned audience. He's addressing a learned audience who knows about these good works that were already written. So connect this to what is called as reader response theory. Reader response theory. You got Robert Hans Jasso, so you're having Stanley Fish. All of these people are also talking about an implied reader. The implied reader has got a certain caliber already. Right? The implied reader has a caliber, so he's addressing a very knowledgeable reader. Right? He's addressing a very knowledgeable reader. So basically, please remember, he's directly coming to the point. He's telling you about the idea of sublime, the notion of sublime, the features of sublime. That what is sublime? Please write this down. The sublime has the power to transport the reader. If I'm watching something on on the reels, if something can transport me. So that is the question. See, understand this. Now, as students of literature, what you have to understand is like there is a proper research that is taking place. Of course, TikTok is banned now in India. That is how you marry popular culture with your research topics. But according to research, an average TikTok scroller is scrolling about 94 minutes on TikTok. Now, of course, we don't have TikTok in India, so that's going to be that same pedestal is occupied by Instagram reels. So imagine 94 minutes. If that is to inflate, at least 1 hour everybody is scrolling the reels. But is that sublime? Can be a question as a research topic. That is how you're marrying popular literature, popular culture to your understanding of these cultural aspects. Is it sublime? Is it actually having the feature of elevating us? Does a reel actually really repulse us? Not all the reels actually do that, right? Do they transport us? Yes or no can be argued by research. You can come to know about it, but they definitely have the capacity to get us glued, addicted. That is the power of late capitalistic society. That it can just grab eyeballs. So it's like your works like the works that are telling you about how there is this attraction to a particular commodity. So what are you able to see? He's actually trying to give you that is Sublime having the power to transport the reader? That is something. And he begins with this question. The first question he says is that whether there is any art which can teach sublimity. Right? Whether there is any art that can teach you loftiness. And that is the answer that you have questions on. There are 5 things. He says some are inborn qualities and some are acquired qualities. If you have to be a sublime writer, certain qualities are inborn and certain qualities can be honed, can be made better altogether. That is what he says. Right? That is what he says when he's coming up with the question, can we teach sublimity? Sublime can transport, can we teach sublimity? The answer is for some hold generally that there is mere delusion in attempting to reduce such subjects to technical rules. You cannot have rules. You cannot have rules. Like what? See, understand this. This is what you study in teaching aptitude. You need to have a good bent also. Some people are very intelligent, but they're not very good teachers. And why is that so? Why is that so? That is because they don't have a slant towards transfer of knowledge or feedback. I've seen a couple of them not even taking feedback. They become very defensive. Right? So what is it that we are talking about? We are talking about epiphany is different. Epiphany is a moment. Epiphany is very, very different. It's a moment of sudden realization. So epiphany is more like, okay, I have found it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But sublime is creating that sort of a work that can let others get transported. You're going to a different plane altogether. So movies that make you cry a lot, movies that make you a little uncomfortable, they are actually pieces of sublime. And there are no technical rules that are here. Right? Also, please remember, he's not one of the first people to talk about sublime. There was a discussion on the sublime during the times when Longinus was writing, so he isn't actually one of the first person. Okay, now look at this interesting explanation. The sublime, they tell us, is born in a man and not to be acquired by instruction. Genius is the only master who can teach it. Now, this is wrong actually. He says that both can be, there are certain inborn qualities and there are a few acquired skill sets also. Right? There are a few acquired skill sets also. So he talks about them. He discusses them as well. He talks about it altogether. But he's not prescribing. He's very clear. He's very, very clear. He's not prescribing. No technical rules. He's not prescribing. It's not prescriptive. This is something which this is more like I don't know how many of you actually seen. I think it was 2011 or 2014 when this movie of Ranbir Kapoor Rockstar had come. And he's being with Nargis Fakri and he's told by his manager that you can never produce great music till the time you don't undergo loss. So that is the reason that there can't be any skill that what movie is trying to basically what that India's movie is trying to say is very similar to what Longinus also says. There's no technical rule per se. Right? You cannot have. He's moving away. He's not prescribing. He's not prescribing. Aristotle prescribes. Aristotle, or for that matter, Bharata's Natya Shastra. Bharata's Natya Shastra is a prescriptive text. Aristotle is describing the tragedy of the time, but he's also indirectly trying to tell you follow this. Indirectly, then he's trying to tell you. But Longinus is very modern. What is the reason why is he called a modern romantic classical writer? He's called modern and romantic because of this reason only. He's giving you that freedom. Right? He's giving you that freedom altogether. Right? So, okay, we got Boris saying 2014 and then we got Rupesh and Ikshit saying 2011. Okay, anyway, but I hope you people were born at that time, right? Otherwise, I'll be like, oh my god, I'll feel like a fossil altogether. Okay, all right. So here, what are you able to see? You're able to see that there is a clear-cut freedom that he's giving. He is not at all interested in technical rules. He's not interested in prescribing technical rules at all. Right? So that is something that he says. But please remember, of course, there are certain qualities which are inborn for one to produce a work of sublime. He says that the sublime is born in a man and not to be acquired by instruction. Genius is the only master who can teach it. The vigorous products of nature are weakened and in every respect debased when robbed of their flesh and blood by frigid technicalities. This is something that he says. He says, if you're